Hello and welcome to this voiceover slidecast focusing on presentation skills. Mainly now going to start by looking at planning and the performance of your presentation. The first thing that we're going to look at is the goal. What do you try to reach or achieve by your presentation? It's important to state that for yourself clearly before you start actually planning the presentation. Mainly in communication there are two approaches. Either your main focus is on giving information to the audience, or you want the audience to do something, either think in a certain way or perform a certain action. So these are the two options open to you. Now, of course, most of these will be a mix of both information and getting to do some kind of action. It's very important that you realize that one of these two will be the main function. On the basis of that, you're going to try and adapt your specific structure and your specific planning to that goal. Now, about structure, it's important to know that any presentation always gets three parts. One, an introduction, where you want to be creative because you want to get what we call a hook. You want to hook the audience, you want to get their attention and their curiosity going so that people will listen to what you have to tell them. Then in the middle part, you're actually going to tell them your main message. And then at the end, you're going to restate your main message in a clear conclusion. This is sometimes called the take-home message, the message that people take home, or the elevator pitch. In other words, what is, in just one or two sentences, the main message that you want people to remember from your talk. Now that's much for structure. Once you've got that in your mind, that you know what your elevator pitch is, that you clearly know what your main focus of your talk is going to be, it's all about performance. Performance will boil down into verbal communication, non-verbal communication, and also the use of visuals and slides. And what we're going to talk about in these couple of slideshows, we're going to start with verbal and non-verbal communication, and then in separate slideshow or slidecast, we're going to take a look at visuals and the use of slides. But as we said, first let's focus on the verbal communication. To do that, we're going to use our voice, and important here is that we sound confident. So we do not want to sound hesitant. Now, what sounds hesitant? Those are sentences that go up at the end of a sentence, and that does not sound like you know what you're talking about. You want to have that dropping intonation at the end of a sentence to make clear to people, I know my business, I know what I'm talking about. Lively intonation, in turn, keeps attention going. So try to avoid having repetitive intonation. Make sure that your text and your sentences are short and sound like talk rather than something that is rehearsed, because that kind of intonation, quite often people pick up on that. Finally, know that while you're trying to focus on your intonation, that you pause enough. Silence is also communication. So just prior to a very important point, or just after a key issue that you mentioned, have that little pause, look at the audience at that time to make sure that you communicate, that people have time to process this key element in your talk. So far we focused on our planning. But first you need to make sure for yourself that you know whether you want to inform people or that you want to do some kind of action, and that everything is going to boil down to your main message. And that take-home message can be boiled down to an elevator pitch of just 1, 2, maximum of 3 sentences. And once you've chosen that very specific narrow angle, then you can start to focus on how you're going to perform verbally, and that's what we've looked at first here, the use of our voice. So lively intonation, good pausing, that's going to help. In our next video slidecast, we're going to focus on the language, the words and expressions that we can use to help create a good presentation that will keep people's attention going.